cars that collect your data in the comments, what would happen every single time, there'd be a bunch of flurry of comments on electric vehicles, how electric vehicles are shit, you should buy one, fuck EVs. And listen, I'm not here to push my preferences on you. I'm not here to tell you to buy an electric car. If you think electric cars are pieces of shit, you're welcome to have your opinion. I don't care. The reason that it bothered me when people would universally shit on electric vehicles is because your eye is off the ball. Because that system, that business model, laws, and the framework that allow that to occur to an EV also apply to internal combustion engine cars. And many of the vehicles that General Motors is illegally collecting your data from and selling are gas cars. So if we pretend that the problem are EVs, then these companies will simply be able to continue to have this scapegoat that allows them to rob you blind. If we pretend that the problem are smart homes, then you're going to be blind to this being an issue everywhere else. Because it is everywhere else. I want you to keep your eye on the ball, not because I want to force you to put smart devices in your house or sell you this shit or tell you you have to get an EV. I want you to keep your eye on the ball because I don't want you to be distracted. It's not the specific type of technology. It's the abusive business model. It's giving people access to the client without giving them access to the server when the product requires a server in order to have this functionality. Next up, I'd like to read an email that I received. I would prefer to remain anonymous, but I want to provide you with some information regarding the future home bankruptcy and how Elkjøp, the largest reseller of consumer electronics in Norway, has handled this matter. Spoiler, it's poorly. I also want to preface this by saying I am not a lawyer. See, I said the full thing, and this is based on my understanding of Norwegian laws. Yeah, if you're going to say I am not a lawyer, that's totally fine. Just never say it as an acronym. I'm not sure if you know this, but Norway recently received some new consumer purchase laws in 2024 that significantly change what rights the consumer, as well as the reseller, has in terms of reclamation. These laws should entitle anyone that purchased a future home in 2024 or later to be able to return it, as it breaches the terms regarding digital updates, specifically Section 27, and the fact that digital firmware is supposed to be updated or delivered after purchase falls under reclamation as well, but any device purchased before January 1st, 2024 would be covered by the old laws. Old laws had no such terms, and thus, since the product technically still works, we've been informed that customers have no right to return the product, despite the product being essentially stripped of most of its functionality. It is not deemed as a defect under the Consumer Protection Act, which is fucking ridiculous. So yeah, even the biggest electronics reseller in Norway is completely denying all forms of return to this. Kind regards, pissed off Elkjøp employee that wants to speak out, and my apologies for completely mispronouncing that. Section 27, complaints. If there is a defect in the item, the consumer must, within a reasonable time after he or she discovered or should have discovered it, notify the seller that he or she wishes to invoke the defect complaint. The deadline for lodging a complaint may never be shorter than 2 months from the time the consumer discovered the defect. Complaints must be made no later than 2 years after the item was delivered. If the item or parts of it are intended to last significantly longer than normal use, the deadline for complaints is 5 years. I would suggest that a device that is installed in your house by a professional plumber or electrician as a fixture in your home is something that you would expect to last longer, and the deadline for complaints being 5 years sounds more reasonable. But updates in digital services that
The pinnacle of excellence!
The deadline for
My will embodied!
The deadline ends with the first and third sentences do not apply where the seller is liability for a longer period by warranty or by agreement, or where there is a defect under Section 15, first paragraph, 17. Complaints can instead be made to the person who, by agreement with the seller, has undertaken to remedy the defect. It seems like future home is moving
Up to the freezer! Juice on the loose!
and it also seems like major electronic
Transfiguration!
retailers are telling consumers to go after all the questions that I would have for my friends is whether or not always is a United States. But there's one way to figure that out. I'm going to remember we edited the wiki article.
Adaptive frosting! A burst of flavor! My will embodied!
Agency that I'm not going to try to pronounce, but here is where you can send a tip and hopefully try and push back against the idea that you bought something that is then not going to be functional by the manufacturer, but somehow you should just have to deal with it because they've decided that they want to make money. This is a way that you can push back against it and soften the blow of the fact that you paid for this, even if you're the person making fun of the person who picked up the smart home. Whether you like it or not, you paid for this. What I really want people to keep their eye on the ball with is Section 401, Millennium Copyright Act, law like
Up to the freezer! Juice on the loose!
of the law, punishable by 5 years of
Transfiguration!
take a digital lock which applies to each other people like this. As long as the device is funded, this is important. This is something that we push back against on a regular basis. This law is the most anti-ownership thing that I can think of in the United States right now on the books, and I'm going to be pushing back on stuff like this as often as I can. And here's something that can use your help. We documented with Future Home. What I also want to do is I want to start pushing back against the misinformation, the fear, the uncertainty, and the doubt. When I said I provide a bounty of $5,000 to somebody if they can figure out how to properly make these devices work in the way that they did before, if give you back access and control over them, the CEO of Future Home said this is considered a legal hack. This is something that I hear a lot from manufacturers when they are rent seeking. In my opinion, when a manufacturer wants to rent seek instead of innovate, they will create systems that they can allow
Adaptive frosting! The pinnacle of excellence! Take your true form!
And anytime somebody reverse engineers around those things, they say that's a legal hack, but that's not what it is. It's reverse engineering. The CEO of Future Home claimed that it is considered legal hacking to give people access to what they want to pay for rather than let you
A little loose
I
boost!
said I
A
would
burst of flavor!
Somebody can reverse engineer that box, these devices, custom homes, so that they can still get access to them the way they did before without having to pay the He claims that, in my opinion, people say that something is hacking rather than reverse engineering. It's usually some tech company CEO that wants to justify their rent-seeking behavior, and they want to fearmonger people away from getting around their rent-seeking behavior by reverse engineering their shitty limitations. I don't like this. I started creating an article for ConsumerRights.wiki to go over this general theme: reverse engineering versus illegal hacking. What I wanted to do with ConsumerRights.wiki is not just
Adaptive processing. Goose on the loose.
practices what the company did, but I also want to start documenting distinguishing that between these things. One of the things that I noticed is that people will call something illegal hacking when it is reverse engineering. The CEO of Neutron was out first, and he most certainly is not going to be the last. I created a base
Off to the freezer. The pinnacle of excellence.
I'm not a hacker, but if you are an expert lawyer, or you are somebody who really knows their shit in this area, I would genuinely appreciate if you would work towards proofreading my article and making it better. The whole point of ConsumerRights.wiki is to inform people. And when I meet people, whether they are regulators, journalists, legislators, or others who want to understand the issue, who may be misinformed on this, I want something that I can point them to that covers these types of cases, and more importantly, explains the difference between illegal hacking and reverse engineering in a way that a layperson can understand. It really comes with the citations, the evidence, the proof, the court cases, the precedent that goes over that. Are you able to help with this? Because if you are, I highly appreciate it.
But only a handful of
down below. Thank you very much. That's it for today. And
Okay, yeah.
of writers can actually pull this off while also telling a good superhero story. Also, this version doesn't really click with today's world, where people are depressed, disillusioned, and cynical because this Superman feels way too far removed from the average person. He's a god dressed as a human who's never really going to be one of us.
Boring.
But Gunn flipped this around and made Superman a human with godlike powers. This difference is super clear in the interview scene at Lois's apartment. Clark explains he stepped into the Baravian conflict because a lot of innocent people were going to die, and he just couldn't let that happen. He didn't think about informing the US government because it would have been a waste of time, and he doesn't need anyone's permission to save lives. He also argues that his involvement shouldn't be some big international scandal because he wasn't representing the United States. He was representing himself, and the idea of doing good. This new Superman still defends the classic values, since Reeves' version also didn't answer directly to any government. But at the same time, Corenswet's Superman gets frustrated when Lois pushes back and tells him maybe he was wrong to jump into a complicated international conflict that had been going on for years. Clark gets mad, yells when Lois brings up the hashtag supershit, and ends up walking out of the interview because he feels uncomfortable. He can't handle people challenging his values in such a cynical way. And he can't just charm his way through every problem with a smile, like Reeves' Superman could. In this scene, Clark has a normal argument with his partner, something that could happen to anyone. Sure, you probably didn't land on Earth in a spaceship and can't lift 200 quintillion tons, but chances are you've had a heated argument with someone you care about over something you were absolutely sure you were right about.
People were going to die!
Gunn's Superman is still the same superhero we know when he's in the suit, but now we can relate to him because he's got the same problems as any regular person. This is way harder to pull off than it looks, because this Superman doesn't rely on the cliche of struggling to balance his personal life and superhero duties. That would have just turned him into Spider-Man or Invincible, at least like in the early part of the Invincible comics. But this Supes feels like a much more grounded hero. He says out loud that he enjoys a cup of coffee, gets mad when his dog gets kidnapped, and talks about what kind of music he likes, just like anyone would in a normal conversation. These little details make us see Superman as a person who happens to have powers, and not as some messianic figure destined to save humanity just because his parents wanted him to. This version moves away from the idealistic and religious take on Superman, but he's still inspiring because he's a hero who always tries to do the right thing. We see that in the battle against the kaiju in the middle of Metropolis. The Justice Gang takes it down to avoid civilian casualties, but Superman says he wanted to restrain it alive and take it to an intergalactic zoo because it was just a confused creature that didn't want to hurt anyone. And sure, I know James Gunn wasn't the one who came up with the idea of humanizing Superman. Mark Waid already did it back in 2003 in Superman Birthright when he retold his origin. And in the Public Enemies arc, Jeff Loeb had Batman describe him as the most human of all, even though he could shoot lasers from his eyes and looked like a god. But Gunn took inspiration from these writers to bring that human version of Superman to the big screen, something we'd never seen done before.
Good for him, man.
The second problem Gunn had to fix was Superman's design, which is one of the most controversial aspects of the character. There are hardcore fans of the Big Blue who want to see him in a colorful suit with his classic red trunks, because that's always been his look in the comics. But another group of fans thinks the design just doesn't make sense, because nobody wears their underwear on the outside, and it doesn't serve any practical purpose. After all, the only reason Superman looked like that in the first place is because his design was based on the strongmen of the 1930s, the equivalent of today's bodybuilders. Back then, If you saw a guy wearing his underwear outside his outfit, you knew that dude was supposed to be strong, which is why all the heroes of that time had a similar design. But that's so outdated now that no other superhero has that kind of design in live action. The Daredevil we saw in She-Hulk wore a suit with the same colors as his first appearance, but they ditched the trunks. And the same thing happened with every Batman adaptation over the last 20 years. They gave him armor because it made sense for him to wear a Kevlar suit to survive fights with mobsters. And they also dropped the trunks because they didn't match. This carried over to Superman. Fearing casual audiences would reject seeing a grown man in underwear, several directors updated his look. In Man of Steel and Superman and Lois, Supes wears a belt but no trunks. The same thing happened in the New 52 when Jim Lee gave him a kind of Kryptonian armor with a high collar. On top of that, starting around 2010, Superman's suit stopped being as colorful as it was in the comics. His design started to look more like MCU suits, which have pretty muted colors to make them feel more like combat armor instead of the classic spandex costumes. You can't deny they look more realistic and believable, but they're not as bright or distinctive as the original designs.
I have to admit, I'm still getting used to the new look.
But while people were more or less fine with the MCU suits, Superman's redesign didn't sit well with everyone. That's why they brought back the trunks in the comics, and also in My Adventures with Superman. So Gunn had to make both groups happy, and to do that, he went with a mix of ideas. He gave Superman a classic look, just like many comic fans wanted, bringing back the yellow S on the cape, the red trunks, and the bright blue suit. But he also added the lines and collar from the New 52, so it would feel more like a Kryptonian suit instead of just a diving outfit. To make sure it didn't look silly or clash with the tone of the movie, Gunn had to adjust the whole vibe of the film so it would feel natural for Superman to dress like this. The new DCU has a more comic book-like style compared to the MCU, the old DCU, or Nolan's Batman, because it never tries to look like a copy of the real world. The characters might deal with human problems we can all relate to, and there are even bot farms and social media attacks. But there are also made-up cities and pocket universes. Plus, people in Metropolis are used to kaijus and metahumans popping up everywhere. Therefore, Superman wearing his trunks on the outside doesn't surprise anyone, because it's the least weird thing happening in the whole movie. He doesn't look like a clown who put his suit on backwards, and nobody laughs at him because his design fits the movie's tone. Now, before you come at me, I'm not saying this is the ultimate Superman design. I wasn't sold on the suit at first when the early photos came out, but in the movie, it works perfectly. Still, I'm not the biggest fan of all the lines everywhere, and personally, I wish the suit fit a little tighter, even if Corn Sweat had to wear a muscle suit like Cavill did in Man of Steel. But those are small details that don't ruin the overall look of the character, which brings back all the classic elements without making him look ridiculous.
I love the new outfit.
The third problem Gunn had to solve was Superman's power level. A lot of people say the character is boring because he's just way too powerful and can solve any situation, so his stories don't have any real stakes. This problem goes all the way back to the Silver Age, when he could shoot tiny Supermen from his fingers or drag an entire solar system with his bare hands. A ton of writers made Superman basically invincible, giving him random powers on the spot so he could literally do anything. He could erase Lois's memory with a kiss, or rebuild a wall just by looking at it. That kind of thing helps patch up any plot holes and makes Superman look like the ultimate hero who can do it all. But it also makes the story super boring, because unless you throw in kryptonite, magic, or a red sun, Superman can just breeze through any challenge without breaking a sweat. Gunn knew this from the start. Before the movie came out, he said in a Rolling Stone interview that to make this Superman work for everyone, he had to make him feel vulnerable and beatable in a fight. The tricky part was doing that without nerfing him, or making Superman look like a pushover, because then the character would lose all his appeal. The middle ground Gunn landed on was giving his Superman a power level similar to the post-crisis version from the comics. But at the same time, his enemies use his weaknesses in really creative ways, which we see in 3 different scenes.
Why don't you prove it?
The first scene comes right at the start of the movie, when we find out that Superman lost his first battle in 3 years against the Hammer of Baravia. At that moment, we don't know the details, but later we find out this guy is a clone of Superman who, according to his creator, is even stronger than the original. On top of that, Luthor spent years studying Superman and memorized all his moves. He came up with 2,500 different techniques to hit every single one of Superman's weak spots. He took advantage of the fact that this version of the Man of Steel isn't exactly a trained fighter. It makes sense that Ultraman can beat him multiple times because he's just as strong, or even stronger, and he actually knows how to fight. This is one of Superman's weak points that barely ever gets brought up. Superman might be one of the most powerful beings in the universe, but in most versions, he's never really been trained to fight at the same level as Batman or Wonder Woman. Most of the time, he doesn't need to, since he's way stronger than his enemies, but if he's up against someone just as strong as he is, he needs to be the better fighter to win. This only comes up in a handful of comics, like in the Our Worlds at War arc, when Mongul trains him so he can take on Imperiex. It's also briefly mentioned in Man of Steel, when Zod
Mm-hmm. 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 Totoro.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Tells him he's trained his whole life to control his senses, and that Superman fights like a farm boy. But with Corrin Sweat's Superman, it's crystal clear he struggles against his clone because he's not as skilled in combat. That's something he's gonna have to work on.
Oh, you are such a wuss.
The second time his weaknesses get used against him is when Metamorpho uses kryptonite to keep him in check. Since he's exposed to it for hours, Superman ends up poisoned and can barely stand. Even after Metamorpho gives him artificial sunlight, he never fully regains his strength and struggles to take on Lex's men at the Anti-Proton River. This scene is both fun and tense because Superman has to keep Metamorpho's kid away from the deadly river while also taking down several of Lex's guys. If he were fully recovered, getting out of the river and handling those goons wouldn't be a problem. But Gunn uses his weakened state to make it feel like both Superman and the baby are in real danger. And the third time his weaknesses are exploited is in the third act, when the engineer uses her nanites to suffocate him. This version of Superman is still invulnerable to almost any physical damage and can hold his breath for hours, but he still needs air in his lungs. So the engineer goes in through his mouth and fills his lungs with nanites, choking him from the inside. The nanites also get into his optic nerve to shut down his vision and all his eye powers, leaving him unable to face the engineer or Ultraman in a fight because he can't even see them. This forces Superman to rely on his brain to survive the stadium brawl, since he doesn't get any outside help and can't physically remove the nanites himself. The way he solves it is by flying up to the atmosphere to clear the nanites from his face, and then plummeting back down, so the impact knocks the rest of them out of his body. The scene works because it makes us feel like Superman could lose, and Luthor even makes this face when he thinks he's won.
I am so happy.
But that doesn't mean Gunn's Superman is a pushover. Even if he gets knocked around as much as Invincible, he's not nerfed at all. He can be vulnerable to very specific attacks, but he still lifts entire buildings and wipes out Luthor's whole army in 15 seconds. He's kind of like the Justice League Unlimited Superman, who admits to Darkseid that he has to hold back every day, or he could accidentally kill someone. This really stands out in the kaiju scene. Superman could take down the creature with a single hit, but since they're in the middle of the city, he can't just toss this thing around, because it would crush dozens of buildings and kill thousands of people. Every time he lands a hit, he has to make sure the kaiju doesn't crash into a building. Because of that, he can't use his full strength to deal with the threat quickly, since that would put innocent lives at risk. It's clear he's insanely strong, but maybe his biggest weakness is that he wants to save everyone. So we've got a Superman who upholds the classic values, looks straight out of the comics, and is just as powerful, yet can still be beaten in a fight. With this reinvention of the character, Gunn managed to make everyone love the new Superman and gave the character a fresh boost in popularity. Believe it or not, the Big Blue has had plenty of rough patches over his 47 years in movie history. I'll tell you all about it in this video.
That's all for today.
Boom! Lego logos? Cool ass baseline. The computerized percussion arrives and you realize boom! Lego logos? Cool ass baseline. The computerized percussion arrives and you realize this soundtrack has some really exciting stuff. In fact, the music in this movie happens to absolutely bang. It's well produced, it accompanies the film perfectly, and it's both adorably retro and genuinely cool modern sci-fi. The music and visuals are both deeply adventurous but still principled. Speaking of the visuals, the whole thing looks absolutely bonkers. The attention to detail at hand is almost maniacal. So much knowledge of the intricacies of Lego was poured into this film. The result? It's an absolute joy to watch. This one can hold my attention much better than the other Lego movies because they use every opportunity at hand to tell a joke or otherwise show something visually entertaining. Unlike more recent big budget toy movies, the money was clearly spent almost entirely on making the film good. The script and story and jokes are all just so amazingly well groomed. The communication skills alone deserve serious credit. Despite being a blatant advertisement, the movie pulls an equally blatant fuck you to the studio and the corporatism thereof, with immense style and self-awareness. Throughout the movie, corporations are treated like the unspeakably evil entities that they are. Still, the experience fills you with an incurable sense of childlike wonder, not to mention the absolutely stacked cast, whose performances, by the way, all slap. Thankfully, it's also damn stupid. Perfect tone for a kids movie. Traditionally, the genre calls for preachy, morally grandstanding tosh, which the Lego Movie conspicuously and graciously ignores. While I think the first half of the movie is more philosophically interesting because of its critique of modernity, it's never boring. The second half just feels like a perfectly orchestrated adventure. The film spends its runtime wonderfully. Dillying, dalliance, and claptrap is kept to an absolute minimum. They smartly spend no time on lore business getting the craggle at the beginning because it wouldn't be interesting. Speaking of that setup, it's absolutely amazing. Not only does it introduce the fantastic door-opening killing two people bit, it completely subverts the audience's expectations. Door-opening killing two people bit, it completely subverts the audience's expectations. When Vitruvius pulls up his cool-ass Lego birds, the audience are expecting a long-ass fight scene. Instead,
your robots are no match for a master builder. For I see everything. My eyes.
Complete anticlimax. Why make a meal out of it? In the prophecy, the line,
"A special one with face of yellow,"
is obviously nonsense. Nearly all Lego figures are yellow, but the special is meant to be ordinary.
A special one? What a bunch of hippy-dippy baloney.
8.5 is an Italian art film about the search for meaning through the lens of filmmaking. The struggle with which Emmett finds his own self makes this feel like an appropriate reference. While Fellini views filmmaking from a very individualistic standpoint, I feel the Lego Movie takes a much more communitarian approach. I would classify it as a kind of communist manifesto for multiple reasons. Emmett is almost archetypal working class. Lord Business is stereotypical ruling class. It tells us, in no uncertain terms, that we must band together as people if any good is to be done. This is not to say that the movie thinks problems will cease to exist once our society is more equal, rather collective ownership is the only way a society can be organized morally. I understand that for some people, this movie being an advert kind of guts it of a socialist message. If that's you, I would invite you to consider otherwise. Is the message of this movie that we need to build our own businesses, that we should compete, that other people are just NPCs in your story? No! The film is straight up telling you that capitalism is evil, that the world is for everyone, and we must work together to build a better one. Elaborating on the theme of the special being ordinary, welcome to Emmett's apartment. Look at all the products. This is where these master builders' world building and environmental storytelling skills shine particularly brightly. The world of Bricksburg prioritizes conformity above all else. Conform. It's the norm. Integrate. It's integrate. You are instructed what to do, but being non-instructed gets you disappeared. Put to sleep. In the first act, Emmett is the embodiment of ignorance being bliss. His apartment contains no personal objects, they're all mass-produced posters and toothbrushes and bicycles. The movie presents a twist on the Socratic paradox. I know that I am not special. Emmett is meant to be the ultimate everyman, the most unspecial person, and this affords him the opportunities that ultimately make him the special.
Emmett, don't worry about what the others are doing. You must embrace what is special about you.
Touching the piece represents gaining consciousness. With Emmett, this is both in a figurative and a literal sense. Firstly, there's the process of learning to think for yourself. Emmett is forced to learn how to become his own person when he's seemingly irrevocably craggled to a seemingly irreplaceable, unique object. Secondly, Emmett becomes enlightened, at least a little bit. The vision he has shows his eyes opening fully for the first time. Emmett, however briefly, experiences reality for what it actually is. That, of course, being the world around us humans. This is not just metaphysically materialistic, it's dialectically materialistic. Lastly, gaining consciousness is a meta-reference to one of the true intentions of the film: make children class conscious. In both the real and Lego world, we face the guarantee of total destruction if we do not take action, and the cataclysmic stakes at hand are communicated perfectly by the movie. Emmett has no people in his life, but he's content.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. What about just having shield?
Eradicate all evil. Which alias should I use this time?
Ooh. A friend sent me a link to a video. Appreciate it.
A scientist in a lab coat develops a chemical that gives children brain damage. Decades later, he produces another chemical. This one burns holes in the sky. Is this some sort of cartoon supervillain? No. The twist is, he thought he was doing good all along. A man who some have called the unintentionally most destructive human being in history. A man you've probably never heard of, due to the propaganda from multi-billion-dollar corporations. Thomas Midgley Jr. I'm King Trout, and I was once almost eaten by an alligator at 3 o'clock in the morning outside of a Wendy's in Miami, Florida, because I was drunk, and a Jamaican man wearing a pink fishnet shirt warned me about the alligator, but I couldn't understand his accent. Join me today.
Increase attack. Record decibels.
Just kidding.
Comrades to the whole squad.
Seems we've got some free time. Want to get up to something fun. Us together. Just kidding.
I think of this one. Anomaly stun. Saving from the engagement randomly draws.
Seems we've got some free time. Want to get up to something fun.
I'll take this one.
I'll tap us together. Just kidding.
As I tell you the story of Thomas Midgley Jr. Thomas Midgley Jr. was born in 1889 in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, and raised in Columbus, Ohio. His father was an inventor, and his grandfather was a steel magnate. He was genetically designed to tinker with things. He graduated from Cornell University in 1911 with a degree in mechanical engineering. He was a smart guy. He was curious, but being as it was the early 20th century, he was completely unburdened by any environmental caution.
When a squad member triggers assault,
I'll tap us together. Just kidding. Seems we've got some free time. Want to get up to something fun. Next, I'll tap us together. Just kidding.
Pavaris. Time spent. Target launched more than 5 times. I believe I can be defensive enough. Okay, let's go to the right and to the left.
In 1916, he was hired by Charles Kettering, who was a big deal at General Motors. Kettering was responsible for inventing the electric car starter. No need to go in front of your car and hand crank it to start it. Howdy do. Anyway, he needed a young mind to help collaborate on fuel research. Midgley was the perfect man for the job, and here's where the dominoes started falling. Back in the early 1920s, cars were loud, unreliable.
I think shiny and sparkly. Yay, correct answer.
And prone to an issue called engine knock. I'm not going to explain to you how internal combustion engines work because your father should have done that when you were a child, but engine knock is essentially when the fuel explodes inside the cylinder before it's supposed to. Not only does this create an incredibly annoying knocking sound, it's also very destructive to the engine. It shortens the lifespan, it causes all sorts of technical issues, and it makes the driving experience feel as though you're piloting a blender full of gravel. Midgley was tasked with finding a chemical additive to prevent this knocking. Credit where credit's due, he tried everything. He tested over 33,000 compounds, including alcohols, aromatics, and metals. Until, in 1921, he hit the jackpot. Tetraethyl lead. It was cheap, effective, and only moderately homicidal. The addition of tetraethyl lead, or TEL for short, almost entirely eliminated engine knocking. Problem solved, right? Right? Here's the thing. Lead, get this, is toxic. But it was the 1920s. They didn't know lead was toxic. Yeah, they did. You know who discovered that lead is toxic? The ancient Romans. Yeah, the Romans used it in their plumbing systems and noticed that it caused mass neurotoxicity. Oops. Workers at the so-called Ethyl Corporation, where they made the stuff, started developing hallucinations, delirium, and some even died. They called the place the Looney Gas Building. Midgley himself even developed lead poisoning during the research process and had to take a medical leave of absence to recover. But instead of rethinking the whole endeavor, GM and Standard Oil launched a PR campaign claiming that TEL was safe. They marketed it under the cuter name ethyl. Because after all, it's not like a chemical named after someone's grandma can poison the entire world. Midgley even did live demonstrations, rubbing TEL on his skin and inhaling it, trying to prove how safe it was. Spoiler alert, not at all. In reality, TEL got into the air, the soil, and the water supply. It settled in the bloodstreams of children, causing stunted development and impaired cognition. Around the world, and especially in cities, lead levels skyrocketed. Entire generations of kids suffered the effects. Decreased IQs, attention problems, and behavioral issues. Not only does this explain why boomers are the way that they are, some researchers have tied this higher concentration of lead exposure to increases in crime rates in the later half of the 20th century, especially the 1970s. There's also a theory that this is why there was a spike in serial killers in the 1970s and 80s. The worst part being, all of this was preventable. Midgley's team had worked with other compounds, including ethanol, which worked just as well. The problem was, ethanol couldn't be patented and monetized. No profit to be made. Ethyl, on the other hand, they could. One of the most disturbing legacies of leaded gasoline isn't necessarily the environmental impact, it's the neurological impact that it had. Exposure to lead, especially in early childhood, has a profound and lasting impact on neurological development, especially on the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, impulse control, and emotional regulation. Let's take a deeper look into what lead actually does to the human body. Once inhaled or ingested, lead has no safe threshold. It is, like we learned about in the Kodak video, which you can watch here or there, wherever it comes up, a bone seeker. Your body treats it in the same way that it does calcium. Since it mimics the role of calcium, the human body happily absorbs it, especially children's bodies. Their developing brain mistakes it for something useful and so builds it directly into the brain tissue. From there, the damage is systemic. Neurotoxicity. Lead interferes with neurotransmitter release, synapse development, and myelin formation. Essentially, it fucks your shit up. It compromises your ability to think, learn, and control your behavior. Even moderate levels of lead exposure are directly tied to lower IQs, attention problems, and behavioral issues. It also messes with your dopamine and glutamate pathways, which are the chemicals responsible for mood and reward processing. This results in more depression, more aggression, and higher levels of impulsivity. Lead exposure causes kidney damage, hypertension, and it even screws up your ding-dong. Seriously, it doesn't discriminate. It makes its way through your entire body and it just wreaks havoc. In other words, Midgley's fun little fuel additive didn't just make cars run a little bit smoother, it also biochemically rewired an entire generation of human beings. To this day, this lead exposure is strongly linked with persistent educational gaps, intergenerational poverty, and finally, our favorite, violent crime. You'd think with all this data, somebody would have pumped the brakes on leaded gasoline. But you'd be wrong. The lead lobby was a juggernaut. GM, Standard Oil, and DuPont all funded research to prove how safe leaded gasoline really was. And by research, I mean PR campaigns dressed up in lab coats, which they funded. The Public Health Service? Compromised. Medical journals? Paid for. Regulators? Quietly sidelined. One of their favorite arguments was that lead occurs in nature, so it's fine. Which is fucking retarded, because that's like saying, well, volcanoes exist, so it's okay that your house is on fire. Two things can be true at the same time. They downplayed cases of lead toxicity as isolated incidents, and even by the 70s, when lead-based paint was banned and unleaded gasoline started showing up, it was already too late. The damage was done. The soil was saturated and blood levels of lead stayed elevated for years. And it wasn't until the 1990s, 70 years after TEL hit the market, that it began to get banned in most developed countries. And in developing nations, well, it stuck around until 2021. 4 years ago. And in the 1990s, researchers found a startling correlation between a large spike in crime in the United States of America and a spike in lead exposure levels on a 20-year lag. Those who were exposed to higher levels of lead in their childhood would go on to be impulsive, aggressive, and violent adults. Midgley didn't just invent a gasoline additive, he also helped write the script for a decades-long wave of behavioral development issues, decreased IQs, and increased violent crime. And just in case you thought our boy Tommy Midge was a one-hit wonder of doom, think again. In the early 1930s, refrigerators were kind of terrifying. They all used either ammonia, methyl chloride, or sulfur dioxide as a coolant, all of which are toxic, all of which are flammable, and are sometimes explosive. If your fridge leaked, not only would you get soggy lettuce, which in and of itself is a tragedy, your kitchen would also become a gas chamber. Or if there was a smoker in the house, or you started your oven, your kitchen might be more of an open concept. At this point in time, our boy Midgley worked at Frigidaire, which was a subsidiary of GM, and they tasked him with finding a better refrigerant. And boy howdy did he. He synthesized a family of chemicals which were odorless, non-toxic, and non-flammable. You may have heard of them. Chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs for short. He named his new chemical Freon, and it worked great. No more exploding refrigerators, no more poison gas. Refrigerators, air conditioners, and aerosol sprays all went full-on Freon. Problem solved, right? Obviously not, that's why we're here. Decades later, scientists noticed something strange. The ozone layer, a protective layer of the Earth's atmosphere that shields us from deadly ultraviolet radiation, was disappearing over Antarctica. The cause? Good old CFCs. Turns out when chlorofluorocarbons make their way into the upper atmosphere, they're broken down by ultraviolet radiation, and the freed chlorine violently interacts with the ozone. One single released chlorine atom can destroy 100,000 ozone molecules before it's neutralized. And those CFCs? That was weak. They were everywhere. They were in AC units, they were in refrigerators, they were in industrial solvents, they were even in hairspray. We had casually, invisibly, and globally been destroying our own planet's ultraviolet radiation protection for decades. And Midgley, well, at this point in time, he was long gone, but his greasy little chemical-stained fingerprints were all over it. Skin cancer rates began to climb, entire ecosystems were nearly destroyed, especially phytoplankton, which are incredibly sensitive to ultraviolet radiation. But shockingly, the world actually responded in time. The Montreal Protocol of 1987 is still held up as the gold standard of international cooperation. It worked. CFCs were internationally banned, alternatives were found, and today, the ozone layer is slowly healing. But the kicker is that CFCs have a lifespan of 50 to 100 years, so we're still living in Midgley's chemical afterglow. By the early 1940s, Midgley was still a highly respected chemist. He was a member of the National Academy of Sciences, and he was president of the American Chemical Society. He had also received multiple honorary degrees. In 1940, Midgley contracted polio, which left him severely disabled. But true to form, he wasn't going to stay still. He invented a bed which had an elaborate system of pulleys and ropes in order to lift him in and out. Then, in 1944, tragedy struck. He became entangled in the ropes of his machine and was strangled to death. A type of cruel, ironic twist you'd only see in a Greek tragedy. A man who created so many invisible dangers meets his own end through mechanical hubris. Here's the kicker. Midgley wasn't a monster. He was curious. He was an inventor. He was trying to solve problems. Okay, engine knock that was destroying automobiles, toxic refrigerants. He just accidentally created much larger problems that outlasted him by decades. TEL was only finally globally banned in 2021. CFCs were globally banned by the Montreal Protocol in 1987, but both will continue to have lasting ecological impacts on the planet for potentially centuries to come. Environmental historian John Robert McNeil once said that Midgley had the greatest environmental impact of any single organism in the Earth's history. Think about that. Not Mustache Man, not Genghis Khan, or Genghis Khan, as people who think they're smart pronounce it nowadays. One man, Thomas Midgley. That's all it took. His story is a terrifying parable about unchecked innovation, scientific tunnel vision, and corporate greed. Let's play the alternate timeline game. What if Midgley hadn't invented tetraethyl lead? Well, in all likelihood, ethanol would have been used as the fuel additive to prevent engine knocking. It's renewable, it's biodegradable, and it's way less toxic than lead. What if Freon hadn't been synthesized? Well, refrigeration probably would have advanced slightly more slowly.
More HP. Or actually this one. Because I don't have much. Oh, this.
Honestly, but other systems like CO2 or ammonia systems could have been synthesized earlier on and without blowing a giant fuck-off hole in our atmosphere. Midgley didn't invent the best solutions for the problems. He invented the solutions that were profitable, scalable, and patentable. Ones that are great for corporations to make millions and for the rest of us to go get fucked. Historians have actually coined the term the Midgley paradox, which encapsulates this entire idea, wherein someone may have good intentions to solve a problem, but in solving that problem, they've unintentionally ruined everything for everyone else. The road to hell paved with etc., and all that, you know. You don't have to be evil to be dangerous. You can just be really good at solving problems well, but wrong. Thomas Midgley Jr. was never tried in court. There were no consequences to his actions. He died at the hands of his own machine in 1944 and was remembered in obituaries as a brilliant inventor. It could very, very easily be argued that he single-handedly had the most devastating impact on the planet of any human being in our history, but probably haven't heard of him because these companies, Standard Oil, GM, they did a lot of work to cover up what damage they had done. And the idea is that he normalized chemical quick fixes to more lasting problems, kicking the can down the road, if you will, still last in modern industry. That's why there are PFAs in our drinking water and microplastics in your balls. Every century has its Midgleys, well-intended people with tunnel vision and a corporate paycheck. So here's the moral. Progress without precaution isn't genius. It's gambling. As always, I've been King Trout. I'll see you when I see you. Love you. Bye.
Yo, what the fuck? Not H.io.
There was just a lot.
Remember
when
we talked about Valve and Steam bending the knee to payment processors, letting outside companies decide what games you could buy? Well, it just got worse. The hammer has now fallen on itch.io, wiping out thousands of games and proving that no platform is safe. This isn't just about what game you can play, it's about who truly controls digital content, and the answer should worry you. Just to quickly bring everyone up to speed, last week Steam announced that they would start start removing games that violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors. This was a big deal because it meant Valve wasn't just deciding what they wanted on their store, outside companies were influencing it. Many gamers and developers were worried about this because it was censorship from third parties, going against how Valve had moderated the platform for years. The new vague rule felt like anything could be next on the chopping block. One of the main groups behind this issue, other than the payment processors, Collective Shout, has gone after much more for much less, like musicians such as Tyler the Creator and games like Detroit Become Human and GTA 5. Now for gaming, they are showing they control a lot more than just Steam. For a long time, other than Steam, itch.io has been known as one of the go-to places for independent game developers. Devs could put up pretty much anything, and they got to set their own revenue share, often giving itch.io as little as 0 or 10% compared to Steam's 30%. This was obviously a great thing for indie devs, making it very popular for them. It was a place where almost anything went, making it a home for unique, experimental, and sometimes very niche content, including a lot of adult games. A few years ago, itch.io even doubled down on this and said that their platform wasn't for prudes. So, what changed? itch.io is now facing the same kind of pressure as Steam. Collective Shout launched a campaign directly targeting payment processors like Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal. They specifically highlighted certain games, including one controversial title called No Mercy, which was on Steam and itch.io, as examples of content that they found unacceptable. Back in April, itch.io just listened to the complaints and removed the game from their platform. But if you haven't been watching my previous videos on why this is such a big deal, if you give these people an inch, they will take a mile. So just hours ago, in the middle of the night, itch.io quickly dropped a massive change to the platform, impacting thousands of developers and games. They announced that they had de-indexed all adult or NSFW content. This means these games no longer show up in searches or when you browse the store. A quick comparison of before and after this change shows that now over 17,000 games are hidden. This isn't just 10, 20, or 30 games removed. We're talking about a huge portion of the library. itch.io apologized for this happening so quickly, saying that they had to act fast to protect their ability to process payments. The situation developed rapidly, and we had to act urgently to protect the platform's core payment infrastructure. Unfortunately, this meant it was not realistic to provide creators with advance notice before making this change, which fits exactly with what we saw with Steam. Collective Shout sent the open letter on July 10th, shared it publicly on July 11th, then Steam implemented their rule on July 16th and responded to the press on July 17th, all happening within 1 week. So it seems like whatever these payment processors are saying behind the scenes are pressuring itch.io and Steam to act quickly before they back out of their platform altogether. This is obviously a massive threat to these online businesses, essentially forcing them to comply. itch.io has confirmed that they are doing a comprehensive audit of all the content they delisted to see what's allowed and what isn't going forward. Creators will have to confirm their content meets the payment processors' rules. So, to protect themselves from Collective Shout and the payment processors, they have taken down nearly every single adult game on their platform, which will lead to hundreds, if not thousands of games getting completely banned and removed. Now, if you're thinking, well, these are just adult games, I don't really care. You need to realize this issue is so much larger than just some porn games, from anything with too much violence to anything they simply don't agree with. Even the creators of the Postal series, Running with Scissors, have been vocal about this issue, mentioning how it might affect the yearly Postal Jam events since they are hosted on itch.io, and the new regulations might restrict things too much to the point of ruining your creativity and amount of violence in your games, while also sharing a few memes about this issue. So it's very obvious to anyone paying attention, this isn't just about adult porn games. One thing that is also concerning, with Steam, when they responded, they said they would give developers who were affected another Steam credit, meaning they could upload another game for free. But with itch.io, it seems a lot different. In the takedown notices sent to game developers who were hit and had their games taken down, they said, if you plan to collect money for your content, then you must adhere to the acceptable use policy of all respective payment processors that your account utilizes. Accounts that are in violation of our terms are not eligible for payouts, which I think is a pretty bad move. I understand that they are essentially forced to listen to these payment processors, but taking the money that these games already earned before the added rule just seems a bit wild. So at the moment, Steam only targeted a few very specific types of content, but with itch.io, they have hit thousands of titles, even some with LGBT themes that weren't even pornographic. Also, unlike Steam, itch.io directly called out Collective Shout in their announcement of this change. So this situation is a really bad trend. Payment processors are acting like online gatekeepers. It really doesn't matter if the content is legal. If Visa, MasterCard, or PayPal decides they don't like it, they can effectively shut down a business by cutting off its ability to take money. If platforms as open as Steam or itch.io have to bend to these pressures, there aren't many other places that offer the same reach or the basic tools to sell games and get paid. If you can't process payments, you can't run a business. So now the real people who control what games you can play are these payment companies. So I really wouldn't be surprised if going forward, more people start living on shits. We've seen this kind of censorship happen outside of gaming too. We've talked about how it's impacted other industries from anime, music, to local businesses, billboards, anything you can think of. These people have probably tried to control it. So what does the future hold for indie games and digital storefronts? Are there really any solutions? Make sure if you are in the US, you pressure your elected officials to back the Fair Access to Banking Act, which addresses this exact issue. It's still currently in the early stages, but it can play a huge part in how these payment processors abuse their power. As gamers, it's important to understand that this isn't just about these gooner games, or even gaming itself. This issue is huge and is happening all over. So I'll also leave a link to a petition about this issue. The itch.io situation should be a huge wake-up call to anyone who thought that this was just Steam related, and before you know it, it won't just be these adult games getting taken down. Payment processors are now controlling gaming platforms and listening to groups like Collective Shout, who actively complain about any content they don't like. How long will it take for someone to put the payment processor mafia in their place? Visa is now under fire for antitrust and anti-monopoly reasons in Japan, so let's hope next we see some action taken for this censorship issue. Check out this video if you want to learn how big this problem is and why you need to care about it.
No, get my dress dirty little pig. Don't touch me. You better not get my dress dirty.
How about this? Time for a surprise!
Oh my.
Nope.
Since you're not busy, want to hear a story? Hey, come. Since you're not busy, want to hear a story? Hey, come on. Since you're not busy, want to hear a story?
Okay. Now, you're the prey. Want some more?
Would you like to stand under my parasol with me? Don't touch me.
Of course, I don't have the means to spend the money, obviously, because I completely forgot about it.
Let's make this quick. I'll make it painless. Here's a taste of the abyss. How irksome. This'll be painless. Psych.
Sound it down! Come on! Don't be nervous!
Who dares get between me and Lord Satan?
Judgment, annihilation! Embrace refinement! Judgment! Time for execution!
No escape. The final act begins now. I'll make it.
Notice me, Lord Satan.
Now, you're the prey.
Don't get scared now! Fire!
No escape.
What the fuck happened?
Our president is far more implicated in the Epstein files than we previously thought. This is according to a Wall Street Journal article. The Justice Department told Trump in May that his name is among many in the Epstein files. A lot of people are going to tell you, oh, that's old news. We knew he was in the flight logs. We knew he was in these phone records. But that's not what we're talking about. Those were already public. Jeffrey's Black Book, that was already out there. This is a new review of documents that we're talking about. We're going to go through all of it. And we're going to start with Trump actually being asked directly if he was told by his attorney general whether he was mentioned in the Epstein files. And he says, no.
Did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the
No,
files?
she's given us just a very quick briefing.
So then we have Trump denying being told that his name was in the Epstein files. But a lot of people were wondering, well, then why are you acting so weird with these files?
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? It's pretty boring stuff that were made up by Obama.
Luckily, we unearthed an interview where Trump actually hints to the fact that he was in fact told that he was in the Epstein files, and it was all fake stuff.
They've been running these files. And so much of the things that we found were fake with me.
Now, that file review is going to be separate from what we talked about with the flight logs, the Black Book, things like that. According to the Wall Street Journal, when the Justice Department officials reviewed what Attorney General Pam Bondi called a truckload of documents related to Epstein earlier this year, they discovered that Donald Trump's name appeared multiple times, according to senior administration officials. So, if you remember Phase 1, right? Phase 1 was a big scandal because Pam Bondi released these files, but it turned out that these files were an incomplete list of mostly already released stuff. So what did she actually release? Well, she released the flight log and she released the contact book. Then what happened? Well, Pam Bondi, super embarrassed, reached out to Kash Patel and said, hey, I need a bunch of new files. This is not enough. Give us more. She went on Fox News, started talking about, oh, I've got this truckload of documents that is separate from the flight log, from the Black Book, that we're going to review and release to the American public.
Looking at these documents going, these aren't all the Epstein files. You know, there were flight logs, there were names and victims' names. And we're going, where's the rest of the stuff? Yeah. So based on that, I gave them the deadline, Friday at 8, a truckload of evidence arrived.
Will everything else be made public?
It's always about protecting the victim. But you know what? We believe in transparency, and America has the right to know.
So there we clearly see there were two separate reviews that happened. First, there's the disclosure in Phase 1 of kind of the stuff everyone knew. And then Pam Bondi goes, oh, we got a truckload of new documents. We're going to review those and release those. And that's the review that flagged a bunch of times that Donald Trump's name appeared in here. And that's when they changed their story. Why is this a big deal? Previously, the appearance in the flight logs and the Black Book were the only appearances we really had of the president. There was really nothing else related to Trump there. It's also notable because Senator Dick Durbin said that the FBI was explicitly instructed to flag Trump's name if it came up in the files.
Attorney General's pressure on FBI to quickly review and produce more Epstein documents as promised. These officials were told to, quote, flag any records in which President Trump was mentioned.
Right. They had a new review where thousands of FBI agents combed through these things, flagging the president's name anywhere it appeared in this truckload of new documents. And that is what we're talking about here. These are new revelations, new pieces of evidence about our president's possible involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, what are these files? That's what we all want to know, right? Unfortunately, it's being heavily covered up and heavily blocked. Obviously, one answer is the Wall Street Journal's prior reporting on this letter that Trump supposedly, allegedly wrote to Epstein, which talks about a secret that they both share. It's worth noting that the president said he was going to and then did sue the Wall Street Journal over this. He's seeking $10 billion about this. But the most interesting thing about this case is that the Wall Street Journal, its original claim was that this birthday book letter was all in the DOJ's possession earlier, meaning it would have been part of this truckload of new evidence unless it was destroyed. And so one of the best ways to disprove or prove the existence of this thing would just be opening up the Epstein files, which is part of the reason it's so sketchy that they're not doing it. If you're saying that this reporting is false, if you're saying that this birthday book did not exist, then why not just release the files where this birthday letter was supposedly contained? In fact, in this story, we actually have breaking news. Epstein's victim's lawyer now says that the estate of Epstein are actually in possession of this birthday book containing Trump's letter and would be willing to turn it over to authorities. So we'll have to see where that goes.
Possession of that birthday book.
The executors of this date are in possession of that book.
Already, if true, not only is that a kill shot to this lawsuit, it also proves that there's new mentions of our president in the Epstein files, which are now being covered up. Another big part of this cover-up story has been our government literally shutting down early to avoid a vote on the release of the Epstein files. This is because there were a bunch of representatives ready to vote actually in a bipartisan way on the release of the Epstein files. And a lot of Republicans had splintered off from the party line of not releasing it, backing the president. Speaker Mike Johnson, because he was fearing this, announced he was cutting short the week's legislative business and sending the House home early for the summer to avoid having to hold votes on releasing the files. I can't think of something more sick than stonewalling the release of files related to a trafficker to try to protect the people implicated in it. I can't think of something more disgusting, except for the hypocrisy that it also represents, because previously, the same guy went on Benny Johnson's show, a conservative commentator, and said he was totally open to releasing the files and would vote on it.
Subpoenaing the Epstein documents from the DOJ, whether you would support either of those.
I'm for transparency. We're intellectually consistent in this. Look, Reagan used to tell us we should trust the American people. I believe in that principle. I know President Trump does as well, and we should put everything out there and let the people decide it.
Right. We should trust the American people until it's time to release it and actually vote on it, and then you shut everything down early to avoid it. Now, later, Mike Johnson came out and said he doesn't want to be lectured on transparency by the Democrats who didn't release the files when they were in power. And you see a similar line coming from the White House about this.
Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an suggestion for any Democrat to make.
Now, to this, I just have to say, yeah, they're scoring political points now, saying release the files, just like you guys scored political points when you were the party that wasn't in power.
We need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
But the people who actually care about this issue, we just want the files out. So you know an easy way you can prevent having the other side score political points by saying, hey, release the files. You can actually do it. Instead, we have a bunch of performative stuff like this from AG Pam Bondi and the president, where right after the reporting on the birthday letter about Trump and Epstein's supposed secret, all of a sudden, like a snap, Pam Bondi comes out and goes, oh, we gotta unseal the grand jury transcripts, despite knowing that there's almost zero chance of that happening. And of course, today we find out that it was denied because
If there's nothing to do, we should practice the blade. You step first.
Okay, don't spend gear coins. But let's get some.
they had literally no grounds to do it. It's like not something courts do for a public interest. In fact, the irony of that whole stunt to pretend to be transparent was that the Epstein survivors, which supposedly these people care about so much, were not told, they were not informed that this grand jury information was going to be unsealed. So ironically, despite saying that they want to protect the survivors of Epstein, what they really want to protect are the third parties implicated in all of this, which is why they won't release the Epstein files they could release right now, which is all in their possession, these thousands of documents that they have. In fact, the attempts to distract from the real issue of the Epstein files not being released, the cover-up that's clearly happening, it's actually been breathtaking. In fact, it compelled Trump to release 230,000 pages of documents on MLK's assassination, which I guess is fine, but like, can you release the conspiracy now? Why are all the conspiracies revealed decades later when we can't hold anyone accountable? But at the time the conspiracies may be happening, all of a sudden it's, oh, well, no, we can't possibly do that. Now, there's another performative thing you should be aware of, and that's the meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell that's supposedly going to happen. The Department of Justice now says they're going to actually talk to Ghislaine directly. Quote, I have communicated with the counsel for Maxwell to determine whether she would be willing to speak with prosecutors from the department. This is confirmed by Maxwell's attorney, who says, I can confirm we are in discussions with the government and that Ghislaine will always testify truthfully. We are grateful to President Trump for his commitment to uncovering the truth in this case. Why is this deeply concerning? Because the idea had been floated that there would be a public testimony to Congress under oath by Maxwell. But this is not that. This is a private meeting with the same people who have been sweeping this issue under the rug the entire time. And what is Ghislaine really focusing on? What is she actually trying to get? She's trying to get immunity. We already know she's trying to get the president's attention and say, hey, you guys kind of screwed me. You wouldn't want to be seen as, you know, not being a man of your word. We've seen those like vaguely threatening public statements by Maxwell. So what exactly are they going to get out of this? She's totally incentivized to clear everyone from this administration rather than get the truth out. Now, I should say we actually have inside information on this because recently a bunch of world leaders have been meeting with not journalists, but get this, podcasters to talk about the world affairs of the day. Podcaster Tim Dillon talks about his dinner with what turns out to later be J.D. Vance and some other people where they discussed the affairs of Epstein and stuff like that. And he floats the idea of Maxwell testifying.
Ghislaine must speak. She should testify before Congress. A couple of the people at the dinner, again, it was a small dinner, 3 or 4 people. They said that is not on the table at the moment, but it's not impossible. Nobody's super jazzed about it.
So the administration appears to have told Tim Dillon in a private meeting that, yeah, we really don't love the idea of her testifying, but apparently they love the idea of meeting her privately to talk to her behind closed doors where we can't know what is said. Speaking to the only person who's ever been punished at all for Epstein's crimes and whose only incentive is to herself get immunity and get off the hook for all of this. So I obviously think this is a terrible idea. I think it's more of the same cover-up. Until they release these files, they're finished. And interestingly, Tim Dillon, the guy at this dinner with the administration, actually said it's right.
I think if they do not release everything they have, they are done. If they do not release, and I told them that, you need to release everything you have.
Yeah, of course. Doesn't take a political analyst to tell you need to release the files. But of course, that seems to be the one thing they refuse to do. They'll do anything. They'll release MLK files. They'll probably tell you that aliens exist just to avoid releasing the Epstein files. And that is the actually most incriminating part of all of this. It has been the reaction, not the files themselves, that has made this look so bad. The unhinged response to just simple demands for following up on their word, saying they were going to release the Epstein files. Then it's, oh, we found the president's name a bunch, and now we're not going to show you what's in there. That makes us all assume the worst about what's actually in here. So ultimately, look, I just believe we should get transparency. Obviously, there's a lot we don't know here, but a lot that has also been coming out, and it all paints a much darker picture than we previously knew.
One step further!
Unstoppable.
I swear on my blade. Yeah. Courage is power! My punch is a mirror.
In my mind, had not been going too well for them for a long while, and I felt that way for a long while. And then they wanted to bring people in, and I said, I don't know if we should be bringing anyone in when these issues are here. I don't know if I like that, especially with smaller talent, because let's talk about money for a second. Be very realistic about this. When you are a company, the nature of your company is when you bring someone in, they don't instantly get hundreds of thousands of followers. When you bring in someone who's a small name, who doesn't have any prior audience, who doesn't have any prior anything they're bringing with them, right? This is not a company that just debuts someone unknown and they get a billion people following them. That's not what this company has. We have our own communities individually that do support other people, but for the most part, they're there for us, the members, you know? So I was saying that, and I was like, let's be realistic. That's how this company is. So if we bring in a small talent, they're not gonna get like blown up to stardom. There's a chance still, but it's not like high. It's not likely or guaranteed or anything like that. It's a small chance. What's more likely to happen is you bring someone in, they get noticed a bit, they get a little bit of a boost, right? Not enough to take the cuts that you take of the things that they make and pay back for the money you put into them. Not enough. You would be running on a negative on them. If we had a lot of money, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. Because if we're profitable in other places and then you want to throw extra funds into that just to support it, that's its own thing. That's cool. I'm totally fine with that. But I was like, guys, I don't think we're in that position. This is at the time me not knowing the exact financial situation, but me having looked at things for a long time and been like, yeah, it's probably not gonna work, right? I just knew for a long time, like, this is not this is not set up well in a way where we're gonna be like super profitable on our own. So I was like, I just don't think we're in a position to do this. And I got pretty much like silence as an answer, like in a call, and some like, well, we're trying to something. It was just a lot of like nothing, you know, a lot of nothing. And some words were said that basically were just hot air, you know. And I was like, well, all right, so you want me to be okay with when later I found out one of the people was one of my own friends. I was like, now I'm extra mad. Right? Like, I have to watch you potentially promise a friend of mine a bunch of things that I know you can't really help with. My friend, someone who wants to do music. Can you pay for a concert for this person? No, because they hadn't been covering stuff like that for any of us. They hadn't been covering anything for us. So if someone comes in, they want to do like music, which means getting a 3D model, doing concerts, doing all this stuff. I was like, that's an expensive venture. Can you help them with it in that you can connect them maybe to some resources for it? Yeah. You help them financially? No. So if they're a small talent and they want to do music, what can you actually do for them? What are you offering them? Genuinely. Like, oh yeah, we'll email a studio for you. Why can't they do that themselves? Right? Like, I was just like, I don't know what we're thinking here. Again, if we had all the money in the world, then I'd be like, hell yeah, because then we could throw funds at stuff and help launch somebody. It's marketing budget. That it can actually work out. But we didn't have that. So I was pointing this out. I was pointing this out the whole time. I was pointing this out before I knew who some of the people were that were potentially joining. I was like, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? And I was just trying to be very realistic. I was trying to be very realistic, and I was saying things pretty nicely. I had spoken with people in like leadership in separate calls many times about business, about strategy, and I had been bringing up since before I joined, things that we could do to make this profitable, because I'm no stranger to startups. I understand what you do is you start a company, you get an investment, you run at a loss at first, and then over time, you inject that money in the right spots so that you can become profitable. That's very normal. That is very normal for startups. A lot of them don't make it, but some do. And I felt like with the talent pool that we had every reason to be able to make it after like a 5-year period, let's say, right? We had every reason to be able to do that. But I was looking at what we were doing, and I wasn't privy to every bit of information. Obviously, I was just privy to some little bits. Even with the little bits I was privy to, I said, hey, you should do this, this, and that to become profitable. You're not doing this, this, and that. So I spent so much of my time while being in the group pushing these things forward. We should be doing this, we should be doing that. And I was really trying. Like I said, I was sitting there in meetings with people, like spending real time on this, writing up notes, handing written up things to people, etc. Nothing. And I was like, brother, in my mind, this is not something I said to them. In my mind, I was like, they should just give up. This is what I thought. They should just give up trying to do some of these things that they're trying to do, because it's not going to work. Not that they should give up the whole thing, but some people should just step back, because clearly they're not suited to this. Maybe some people should just take a different role, because the role that they're in is not not what they can do, right? I was just like, it ain't good. And if the talent are the only ones who are really seeing it, there were some staff that absolutely did. Like I said, like my own manager, he and I would sit there in meetings and we'd go over my stuff for the week, and then I'd also go over like company stuff, you know, and I'd be like, hey, realistically this thing should happen, and we should be doing this project here is not being done the way it should be, etc., etc. And I was just pushing stuff up the chain, and it was like once it went past that layer of like our managers, it like died. I don't know what happened to it after that. Like I know and I trust for a fact that my own manager was sitting there pushing these things up the chain, and then I myself was sometimes too, but it just like brick wall, donut wall, that's it, right? I was just like, well, okay, all right, you know. I would see sometimes things be done where money would get spent in a way where I was like, why did we do that? It was mostly in the past. While I was there, for the most part, there wasn't really money being spent on random shit, because I don't think there was money to spend on random shit like that, like they did early on. But I looked back and I was like, what is some of this? Like, what were people thinking? Yeah, like the Subway ads.
Here they are. It's a lot of money. This is one of the ways that you get it. There's also this piece of information here, and I'll let you explain how much this costs. So what this says in Japanese is right here. This says that for one of those pillars, 7 days, if I'm not mistaken, it'll cost 40 million yen, which is about $250,000 for one. If you want to take over the whole thing, it would cost 200 million yen, which is, if I'm not mistaken, it's a fuck ton, okay? It's like an insane amount of money, and that's to get all those pillars for 7 days of advertising.
Yeah, I remember looking at it at the time even and being like, is that the right usage for that? What if one of those was just a concert instead? Right? Like legitimately, you could have gotten an entire like concert for one member for the cost of like one of those Subway ads. So I remember this is stuff I was thinking before even joining. I was just like, look, do I think sometimes spending money on stupid marketing ideas works out? Yes, I've seen it work really well actually. But that one in particular, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know, man. A lot of stuff that was odd. But again, you know, I worked on joining because I was approached directly and I was handed a version of a contract. I was not told, you got to sign this. I was told, this is what we hand people to start with. Please lawyer up and work with us on this, you know? That's what I was told, genuinely. I'm not going to pretend that 100% of everything was bad all the time and start punching at them and being an asshole like that. That was good. I had my own lawyer and I sat there and negotiated things, and I ended up with a version of the contract that was very different than what was put in front of me. And it was something that I genuinely was like, yeah, I'm chill with this. And, you know, my plan was to join and be there forever. My plan was to join and fix a lot of things if I could, with full knowledge that it might not work, because, again, I'm no stranger to startups. I know how many of them don't work out. And my plan was, well, if it doesn't work out, I will at least have
victory, the only option.
things done in a way where I'll be okay. You know, that's it. And that was, you know, here we are. So, am I gonna lose some things? Probably, yeah. But I still conducted things the whole time I was there carefully, because I knew from before I joined, again, when they were giving initial pitches to me and stuff, like, this looks likely to not be okay. I wish I knew how much of a bad situation some other members were kind of in. I did not realize how much money some of them were just kind of leaving with the company, stuff like that. I did not know these sums. I may have said a lot more beforehand had I known. I still did say a lot. I did a lot to try and make sure people could make informed decisions within my means, whatever I was able to say. And I was internally, you're allowed to say a lot, you know. So I was very outspoken, and I was very forthcoming with information. I held a lot of discussions between myself and some other talent and staff and leadership, especially, to try and make sure that concerns that I had, that they had, were spoken. Because if someone was sitting there thinking about something and going, oh, I don't know if this is right, or I don't know if this thing is done the way it should be, or blah, 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 I didn't want it to die with them just thinking about it in the corner. I was like, let's actually sit down and talk about a lot of things. So I set up a lot of calls and meetings and different things, and I sat down with people and took their concerns and itemized them into lists and all of this stuff, and made sure that the concerns were properly heard, you know? I did all of that. I did all of that, and I still feel like I didn't even do as much as I could have. I could have, if I decided to not stream for a while, I could have sat down and just done so much of that. But you know, I did what I felt was way more than enough, considering I was not like getting paid as an employee to do any of this. Yeah, I made sure that a lot of concerns of the talent were itemized and said. and spoken. And especially because some people are just nervous talking about this stuff. Some people are like really unsure about how to conduct themselves in these kinds of conversations, etc. So I made sure I helped there. And so I sat down, had discussions with people. I said, hey, here's what I need. By the time I was doing this, I'm gonna probably make a video talking more in depth at some point, but by the time I was doing a lot of this, I was already preparing to leave. Hadn't really told people that's where I was, but I was already ready for that. I still wanted to help. I stayed longer than I wanted to. I stayed a lot longer than I wanted to sit there and try, you know, and do, again, a lot of the very recent information was not stuff that had come to light yet. So I was like, there's still that Hail Mary that we can do, where we can sit here and talk over a lot of this stuff and just see what happens. See if some people are willing to give up the reins on certain things, if some people are willing to adjust strategy, right? Like change what they think we should be doing and just adjust paths. Because again, with the people that we had, no reason why it shouldn't have been able to work, genuinely. So I was like, let's just sit down and talk about it, right? And we did. We talked a bunch, and I even gave my meeting notes to leadership that I was sitting there note-taking the whole time while we were talking. I was doing all the work I shouldn't have to do, handed it over, and I said, you've got a week to make a roadmap. So you have to address all the things that we itemized out, say what you're going to do or what you intend to do or what the status is or whatever, and then some sort of timeline so we have something tangible to go off of. Because I was like, look, I'm flirting with the idea of leaving. I was really wanting to leave, but I was flirting with the idea of leaving, so I told them. And this is what I would need to consider staying, is these pivots on these things, right? Really structured meeting. A week later, I'm given a roadmap that I thought was not sufficient at all for me to want to change my mind or even try at all. Some people were like, I'd like to give some of these things a shot. I said, this is to other talent, I said that I already did way more than I signed up for. I set up a damn meeting. I've done more than enough. I was already ready to go. I really hope it works out. But I stayed for quite a while to make sure that I helped them through that. And then I put in some notice ahead of time and was like, yeah, I'll be gone by this date. If you magically conjure solutions to these things, maybe, you know, but you'd have to like cast a damn spell. There you go. And they had some calls with me the whole time trying to have leadership be like, we have some meaningful context for you that might affect how you feel. And I would sit there through a meeting and they'd say some things and I'd be like, that didn't affect how I feel. Thanks. And I would just be like, all right. So I just stuck with it, and I ended up being the first one to like publicly choose to leave, you know? So that's, and here we are. I regret not being more outspoken internally earlier. I say that though, I actually really, I said that to one other member and they were like, no, you were really outspoken. And I'm like, yeah, but I should have been like an asshole about it. I was never an asshole about it. And now looking back, knowing what I know now, I should have been an asshole about it. At the time, I didn't really feel like I had a reason to be like that. I really didn't feel like it was worth being that way. But yeah, now that other things have come to light, I'm like, damn, I got some really vindicating messages from people being like, you were right. And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, again, hindsight is 2020. At the time, it didn't feel right to push that way. And I didn't want to push anyone into a decision just because I felt so strongly. I was like, look, I've known this was cooked since the beginning. I was really hoping it wouldn't be. I put time in, I put effort in, I did more than enough. I'm going. I didn't need to drag everyone else into that, right? I needed them to see for themselves their own stuff not working out. And I wasn't going to be the bad guy and be like, you have to leave with me, haha, and like rub my hands together and look evil, you know? So I didn't do that. But yeah, looking back, I'm like, damn, I should have done that, but that it only would have made sense if I knew everything that I knew now, right? It really would have made sense only in that scenario. But yeah, I don't know. I did what I could. So there you go. I'm trying to be a bit vague. Depending on how things go, I will be able to speak less vaguely in the future. I'd love to pull up like the document I made at the time of all the stuff we wanted to ask for. I don't think there's some stuff on there I will never say just because I shouldn't. There's other stuff that I'm like, yeah, I think I just have to wait before going into specifics or anything like that, you know? Again, gotta be nice and careful. But yeah, I don't know. I really, all I can say is after all of this, I really tried. I tried since the beginning. Almost all of the projects that we did do were my idea or I was pushing them forward. I think with everything considered, there's just a lot I want to know. There's still a lot I want to know, and that's another reason why I'm being pretty careful about what I say still as well. There's a lot of the issues came about because no one knew anything realistically. And I know there's some people online being like, how does this person not know this? How did that person not know that? How did this person only find out now? Blah, blah, blah. It's really easy to obscure information when you don't tell anyone anything, right? And everyone is like not sure. So yeah, and there's a lot of inner workings. Again, like right now is not the time for me to say, but I completely understand how this happened. You know, I just want a lot of specific information that I don't know if I'll ever be able to get, but I would like that.
Before we begin, all the ad revenue from this video will be going towards the Immune Deficiency Foundation. If you'd like to donate at any point during this video, please consider using the Tiltify link in the description. Thank you so much. Hey everybody! Welcome to the stream. I am very sick. Well, I'm not too sick to shoot the shit, you know. I just have a really disgusting cough. Man, I'm about to hawk up a bunch of yellow mucus for you. Hi, Nanners, long time lurker here and big fan of your stuff. I was confused when you left the show, but boy, does it make sense now. I'm glad you're indie now. Thank you. Please send lots of support to everybody else who left. Also, thank you, Sampiz, for the bits. I forgot to put a disclaimer that I actually turned TTS off for the stream. Here, let me put one on real quick. Okay, that is not what I wanted to put in the disclaimer. That's from a while ago. Let me retype that real quick. Wait, hold on. Let me correct this. Don't donate to me. Sorry. Thank you. Hey, Nanners, thank you for being mega based all the time. Well, that's an overstatement, but thank you for understanding me and supporting me. I really appreciate, like, so many of you guys who stuck around and were so supportive during, like, everything a couple years ago. It's been nice recently. Like, I've been having so much more fun streaming this year, and, like, it just felt so nice to finally get over the burnout that was just, like, looming over me and making me feel so anxious about doing anything and just, like, weighing on my mind. So, like, in recent months, getting back into streaming and shit, I felt so much better, like, way better. I really appreciate everybody who's just, like, chill, hangs out in my chat and cracks some funny jokes and listens to me laugh at my own jokes and cough all over myself and spit up mucus all over myself. And I feel very lucky. I know I've said it a million times, but I feel so lucky being in the position that I'm in. And there's just been a lot that, like, I haven't been able to talk about, and a lot that's weighed on my mind for many years, and just in general too. Like, I'm always gonna be the type of person that doesn't say, like, streaming isn't an inherently hard job. I think, like, you go live, you play video games, you make fart jokes. It's awesome. Like, I'm very lucky to have this kind of opportunity, and I'm very lucky to have, like, the fact that there's, like, people who give a shit about anything that I do. That's wild to me. That's actually, like, I can't believe people actually care about anything that I say or anything that I do. There's just things, like, involved with streaming, like, being part of companies. I'm sure you all know, especially now, that can make things very stressful behind the scenes, especially when you're not able to talk about it. I don't know, it adds up. The stress of it adds up. Fuck NDAs. I'll be real. I don't even know how much those NDAs, like, if they hold any water as of now. I'm not gonna lie. Like, going live right now, like, during all this, I feel anxious. There's just so much that I want to talk about. I'll be real. There's so much that I've kept to myself for literal years. And I've seen, like, a lot of people coming forward, and I'm really, I don't want to say proud. I don't want to say it like that word, because that kind of makes it feel condescending in a way. I don't mean it like that at all. I'm inspired by them. They're very brave. I'm a scared little bitch. I wish them all the best. I am so unbelievably angry about just everything, like, the entire everything, man. Like, what the fuck? I'm not good at talking, even during the best of times. You guys all know that. I'll do my best. I really don't want anything I say to be misconstrued in any way. Whenever I have to talk about anything remotely serious like this on stream, my butthole puckers up, you know? Like, you almost fall off of a high place and get that, like, whoa. Did you see what K-Song did with the Japanese manager? Yes, I actually saw that happen live, because I woke up at 5 a.m. right on the dot when she went live with that, and that was actually unreal. Oh.
I quit Bishojo today.
Hi.
I quit. This is very wrong.
She has the biggest balls of all time. That was incredible. She is a legend. I've always, like, greatly respected her. It pains me that after everything else she went through before the Bishojo stuff even, she had to go through even more shit. Again, after like putting her trust in these people, they fucked her over like that. Like that is insane to me. And she's so nice. All these people that have been fucked over, they're so nice. It just sucks. Like they put their trust in these people. We all did. Like you feel like you're part of a family, so to speak. And you just want everybody to do well. You want the family to succeed. And just to have that trust broken in such a, like, the worst way possible, it's heartbreaking. God, everything involved in this, it has been mind-numbing. Not even mentioning the recent thing that came out, you know, involving them.
Come on! Don't be nervous!
Stealing money from a charity and fucking over Iron Mouse. Like, even before all that shit, like, there was, like, so many things that were very angering and very disappointing. Who the fuck steals from charity? Like, my expectations for them were very low when I left. Like, even back then, I was like, I had some glimmer of hope that maybe they'd realize, like, oh man, we really fucked up. We really mismanaged things. We gotta turn things around and actually look out for the talent. We promised and we take care of them. They promised us that they would look out for us and take care of us. But no, like, again and again, like, at every turn, I'm disappointed and, like, they betrayed everybody. I can't even believe it. I can't even fucking fathom it. It's cartoonish. It's cartoonishly evil. I hope that this just shows people the talent is what matters. It's the corporations would be nothing without the talent. Care more about the talent and if they're like being taken care of than like the interests of any company or corporation. At the end of the day, like, corporations, they're like an entity. They're a corporate entity. Sometimes they'll stoop so fucking low to do whatever they can to make more money off of people and take advantage of people. Yeah, the talent is the company. The talent is the heart and soul and backbone of the company. I just hope in light of all of this, like all this coming to light, more people will understand this, like, in general, and like be less likely to fall victim to some of these shady ass tactics. And I'm not saying that in a way where it's like it's anybody's fault that they fell victim to it. I don't blame them at all. I did too. Like, they can be convincing as fuck. Like, the tactics that they use, now that all this is out in the open, maybe they'll be less likely to be able to pull the wool over people's eyes and trick them into shit and take advantage of them. Seeing them jack themselves off as a beacon of treating talent fairly when they have actually been screwing over their talent the whole time, while you can't say anything, must have been aggravating. To put it very lightly, yes. And I will say that during all that, like, I wanted the people that were in there to get out if they could. Like, I didn't want them to be fucked over. Like, absolutely not. I wanted the best for them. And some of the staff, too, like Panini. Like, she was my manager for a good while during my time at Bishojo. She was a really, really nice lady, and she helped us so much. Yeah, I'm sure, like, a lot of the staff that weren't, like, higher up people had no idea about any of this. Like, I wouldn't blame them for not knowing, because, like, a lot of the way that they operate is they would purposely, like, spread misinformation and, like, not tell people shit. Keep them in the dark. I don't know if my heart is beating fast because of what I'm talking about that I never thought I'd ever be able to talk about for the rest of my life, or because I'm coughing like a sick motherfucking puppy. Again, I'm sorry. Anything I say sounds really fucking stupid, or if it's disjointed, or if I phrase anything in a dumb way. I'm kind of rough around the edges right now, and This is it's difficult to talk about. I feel like I gotta talk about it after all this time. I gotta say something. And the fact that like so many other people did, I just felt like it's good. It's good to get that kind of thing off your chest, but also I feel like it's important for other people to know, especially if they're another VTuber or other like streamer, just so they can see the warning signs and stuff like this. Use it as a cautionary tale. If our stories can help companies in general like shape the fuck up, then I think it's for the best. Like, despite all the stress and the suffering and everything that people went through, at least it'll make for some kind of meaningful change in the space. Hopefully, we can only hope. No, at least no more spewing from a fucking charity and thinking you can get away with it. What the fuck? It's actually crazy. I genuinely still can't believe it. I really don't like to delve into shit like this on stream because I know everybody just wants to chill, and I do too. But this is like a lot of this stuff, like the stuff that I can talk about, at least has been weighing on me for years. I just want people to have context and like understand where well, not just me, but like a lot of people like Bay and Silver. And also, like, before all this went down, too, even, like, Matara and Zen and Giga, when they left, like, I just want people to understand, like, the situation as best as they can, have transparency for a lot of things, and also just, like, spread awareness of a lot of the stuff that can go down, or a lot of ways that people can be taken advantage of. Matara was fired, not left yet. That's insane to me too. It's not my place to talk about her story. Her situation is infuriating to me too. Like, I was able to speak with her at that party that I went to a few weeks ago, and she was very nice. I really appreciated her like coming up to me and talking to me. She reached out to me in a way that just really, it meant a lot to me, especially coming from someone that I don't even know her really. And I know that she got obscenely fucked over by the company too, and it's just unfair. What everybody went through is completely unfair. Yeah, it was a very genuinely nice gesture on her part, and I appreciate it a lot. Even though I was literally meeting her for the first time, she was like checking up on me, asking like how I'm doing and stuff, and it just it meant a lot. And I'll take back everything I said about cockroaches. I guess to like start with, I had the feeling of wanting to leave Bishoujo months and months before I even left. Like, there was just like a lot of problems, even during like the first few years of the company, and I don't know if I can get into many of them. I had my reasons even well before like things came to a head with the contract dispute stuff. It was frustrating at the time not being able to be more open about the reasons why I left. Like, there was just like a lot of cracks forming. There came a time when we had to renew our contract, and the contract, as y'all know, like Vay mentioned this, Vay was the very first one to leave, like officially. And I think like a lot of us were all kind of like huddled together in the darkness, like, dude, what the fuck is going on with this company? And I was very unsure. Like, part of me was like, there was alarm bells going off, and I was very like weirded out by some of the stuff that was happening. I actually, like, way back when, I was like, man, like, something about things that are going on in this company is not sitting right with me, but I'm gonna stick it out because I believe in the company's mission. And then the contract renewal happened. Yeah, they put Vay under an NDA that made her unable to talk to any of the girls about it. Yes, that part was so fucked up. They did so much to prevent us from talking to each other and to purposely like pit us against each other even. And like, they did not want us to talk to each other. They did not want us to like get together and be like, yo, like, what the fuck is going on? Isn't this kind of weird? They like isolated us and like threatened us with legal action. And I can't, bro, it's insane. And she was the one initially that was like, hey, this contract does not seem that great, for lack of a better word. Like, we need to look into this. We need to like get a lawyer and check this shit out, because like that's like what you should be doing even To begin with, if you're dealing with any kind of contract, any kind of like legally binding contract, when you're part of a company, you should have a lawyer look over it. And it is crazy to me how many people don't know that they should do that. And a lot of that like isn't even their fault, because a lot of the time, like in the case of Vishojo, they will purposely try to discourage you from seeking out a lawyer, like legal counsel about it. They'll use like peer pressure tactics to make it seem like it's bad to get a lawyer. Thank God they actually had like contacts to this really nice agency, a lawyer agency. I got in touch with them. They helped me so fucking much. I'll never forget, like I was on a call with this lawyer who was a really, really nice lady, by the way. I could just hear her audibly being horrified at this contract, and it made me so scared. It was terrifying. I was like, what the fuck? Like, what was I about to sign? They helped me so much. And I hate that during the fallout of all this, she got so much flack, and then by extension say that I only left because she left, which like it makes both of us look like a bunch of dumb heads. Like, oh, look at these dumb bitches, like she left because of this and she left only because the other two left, so she must be fucking stupid, right? There's probably not anything wrong with this company, I guess. It's probably just them leaving because they're fucking stupid, I guess. It was so fucking frustrating to see all that shit go down and not be able to say anything to defend ourselves. The narrative Vishojo Sheep went with was our boyfriends made us and we were greedy. They didn't know we didn't get paid for sponsors between 2021 and 2023. Yeah! Holy fuck! I don't know how much I can go into in regards to the narrative pushing shit. The boyfriend shit that is just insane. I had to watch Aethel take so much shit, even though, like, privately, he wasn't telling me to leave or to stay. He was helping me in every way possible as like a supportive partner can and should. Like, he was fucking amazing and so supportive and helped me through so much of the stress. But when I was deciding to leave, he never told me. Like, he was just saying, like, whatever you choose to do, I will support you. He never tried to push me in any direction. He was unbiased and just like told me straight up like the pros and the cons and everything, and just was genuinely like the best support system I could have had. And to see him get shit on after I left, people accusing him of like telling me to leave, like he's in my ear, like, oh, the evil boyfriend made her leave, when that couldn't have been further from the fucking truth. And he did not deserve any of that. And the fact that I couldn't defend him from that and he couldn't defend himself, because like all this shit was being spread about him and me, about everybody else who left. I'm so glad that there were chill people that, even though we couldn't say anything, they still supported us and believed in us and understood where we were coming from, even though like we couldn't tell the whole story at the time. Like, it's frustrating to see your friends get dragged in the mud like that. It's even more frustrating to see like someone you love that much be just like dragged in the mud like that. It's infuriating. It was so fucking stressful. And not to mention all the shit that got flung at Vay and Silver. It never stopped. It was like, you'd think that people would shut the fuck up after like literal years, but no, like it was still being pushed about them, and people are still treating them like they're stupid and stuff like that. And it hurts to see that shit about your friends, about people you care about. Why would people care? I think like part of it is people being loyal to corporations for whatever reason to a fault, and part of it, I'll just say, like some corporations, they want these kind of narratives to be pushed because it protects the company's image. Like they will encourage this kind of narrative or like go and push the kind of narrative themselves. We're a family here at Corporation. Yeah, that's the real insidious thing about like these types of companies, is they push that narrative not just to the public to get them invested in the company as an entity, but also they push that to the talent and staff as well, to get like a kind of hold over them, you know, and guilt trip them and stuff like that. Bishojo pushed that even harder than other companies, I feel. Yeah, a lot of their marketing was built around the promise of like talent freedom, talent first, and just the fact that they're like this safe haven away from all the other evil, bad corporations. Like, we're not like them. We're a big family and we treat our talent well. Seeing all like the greater VTubing community come together in a time like this, it's very heartening, and it makes me feel like, you know, we're all gonna get through this together. That's the thing that we should all focus our love and support on, is like each other and like the talent, and not corporations and companies. Like, together we are strong. Companies need us. We don't need them. Like, VShojo is nothing without its talent. The reason why they were put on the map was because of all the personalities and all the talent and all the amazing people that came together under their banner to promote them. They stole from the geese laying the golden eggs. The fact that they fucked over like Zen and Mouse, that's mind-blowing to me. Like, how did they think they were gonna get away with that kind of shit? I don't want this kind of thing to happen to anyone ever again. I really hope they're held accountable. I hope that, like, I don't know. I don't really have hope that they even like think that they did anything wrong. I'll be real, but I hope that they don't go into the line of work involving like running any sort of company like this ever again. Like, they had their chance and they fucking blew it. I hope justice is served too. I hope all the people that have outstanding payments that have not been given to them, like Kason hasn't been paid since September of 2024. I hate that there's so many stories like this. Like, where the fuck is the money, bro? I knew things were bad, but I cannot believe the extent to which they took advantage of everybody. Stealing $500,000 from a charity and from Iron Mouse of all people it goes beyond cartoonishly evil. It's just sickening. She's the one that put VShojo on the map, and she was instrumental in so much of its success, and her story has inspired countless people. So for them to fuck her of all people over like that is like, what the fuck were they thinking? Did they think they'd be able to get away with it? I mean, I guess like they didn't pay a lot of other talent, and we weren't able to speak out about it because of, like, you know, legal reasons, I guess. So maybe they did, but it's genuinely insulting. Did they ever actually pay anything? Yes, they did, but I don't know. I can't really speak for everyone, but at the time I left, they had owed me pretty much close to the amount of a Mercedes-Benz S-Class car. I don't even really need to say this to defend myself, because at the end of the day, like, people need to be paid what they're owed for like the work that they've done, the sponsors they've done, the merch that they've sold. Like, that's part of the contract. That's just how it is. Like, you're not greedy for like expecting a payment that was promised to you like that. But also, it wasn't just about like the fact that they hadn't paid me. It was the principle of the thing and like all the other things that were adding up. Just like all the red flags and the mismanagement. Like, I saw this going on and saw like the payments that were missing, and I was like, this isn't right. Like, we gotta do something about this. Like, I gotta get out of here. Like, and I even like warned people too. Like, I tried to tell them to get a lawyer, just as like they had told me, like, yeah, you should have a lawyer look over this contract. But apparently, like, there were things that were said to where like people were discouraged from doing that. Like, you know, like what they said with how like she was told to not tell anybody that she was leaving, or she would be, I don't know, threatened with like legal action over her NDA and stuff like that. If they were willing to stoop this low, certain things like this, like some of the stuff that I can't even talk about, like, what else did they do? I just wanted to be done with it, and I was scared to leave, I'll be honest. And part of the only reason why I like had like the courage to leave is because I was able to kind of leave around the same time as Vay and Silver. It wasn't like a secret cabal of like evil bitchy ladies being like, yeah, leave with us, you should leave with us, and we can be mean girls, and whatever the fuck that people tried to push. It was like, obviously I would want to leave with other people, so it wasn't like a giant like arrow pointing at my head like, hey, look at this person who just left, and like I'd have a bunch of blowback. I know, like, I can't speak to like Matara, Zen, and Giga's stories, it's not my place, but I know they must have felt like much the same way, like being able to leave around the same time. Like, it's not that they all like encouraged each other to leave for some kind of like evil reason. It's like, bro, I feel like I'm taking fucking crazy pills here. Like, the past 2 years, just like the fact that people were suspicious over the fact that we left together. Like, why would that even be a bad thing? Like, it genuinely made me feel crazy as fuck. They wanted people to think we were leaving as friends. Yeah, that's part of it, isn't it? Like, they wanted to push that kind of narrative. Like, the only reason they left is because the other one talked them into it. Even though our decision was individual and we hadn't spoken about it. Yes, exactly. Like, we all came to this conclusion independently of each other. Like, we're friends, like, don't get me wrong, but we all, like, obviously have agency. We all have our own, like, thoughts and feelings, and, like, it fucking drove me insane. Having my intelligence questioned. Like, people, like, saying all this shit, like, coming up with all kinds of, like, harebrained reasons why I left, or acting like I'm a fucking idiot for leaving. I'm sorry to sound like I'm like having a fucking gamer rage moment, but oh boy, not being able to defend myself from that kind of shit over 2 years, like, that actually, there's a part of my brain that's probably gonna be broken for a bit. Your chat window is out of sync. Oh yeah, it's kind of like lagging really bad, isn't it? Holy shit, sorry guys. Here, I'll refresh it. Oh no, I deleted everybody. I deleted chat. I'm sorry. Maybe it'll come back. Here, I'll put like a placeholder. Here's a picture of my dog. This is the sleeping Salami Michael of peace. Wish her a nice rest and many blessings will come to you. Like, even though I knew there were so many problems and I wanted everyone to get out of there, or at least like for them to shape up and actually treat people the way they promised to treat people, I actually had like a glimmer of hope. Like, a while after I left, when they announced that new wave of like Kenya and stuff, I thought like maybe they learned from their mistake with how they were treating people. And after we left, they're like, all right, let's actually shape up and like do things right this time, you know? And I felt like a bit of relief from that, I guess. I assumed they rewrote the contracts too, and that they were actually paying people this time. Like, maybe they had like an oh shit moment after we all left, like, oh shit, we actually gotta like get our act together and actually like treat people well. But no, they doubled down. They tripled down. When I was at Bishoujo, I believed in Bishoujo. Like, in the beginning especially, I felt at home there. Like, I was approached to join Bishoujo during a very difficult time in my life, and I wasn't sure if being part of a big company like that would even be suitable for someone like me. But they made so many promises and like helped with a lot. They actually did like help me with a lot of stuff. They helped a lot of dreams come true, not just for me, but for a lot of people. I genuinely trusted in them. I consider some of the staff like family almost, and like I felt like their mission of talent freedom was just so great. And they could help so many people with that and do things right, as opposed to so many companies that would mistreat their talent. Even like shortly after Bishoujo was announced, there was this article that was published about it. Like, here's this new VTuber company. It's an English VTuber company. I remember being so excited, but also like so terrified. Like, oh my god, like this is actually happening. Like, I'm actually in this. Like, I hope I don't fuck it up. And I read the comments on it, which you should never do. And it was just people saying like, oh, Bishoujo is gonna be dead on arrival because they got Neanners in it. And I felt so shitty from that. That was like a kind of thing that I had in the back of my mind, being part of that company. Like man, like I really did not want to cause trouble for anyone. I didn't want to create problems for anybody, like the talent and the staff alike. Yeah, like I met a lot of amazing people through my time at Bishoujo. A lot of like amazing, inspiring people. And it hurt to make the decision to leave, even if like it was logically like the smart thing to do. I was so fucking happy when they joined, and I got to know her a lot better through her being in Bishoujo. A friendship that I'm always gonna treasure. Oh hey Yuzu, what's up? Yuzu, if you've ever had to deal with anything remotely similar to any of this shit, I am so fucking sorry. Yuzu is also a huge sweetheart. Girl, no comment? Oh god. I don't understand how so many of these companies get it wrong. Like, what the fuck is wrong with them? How do they fumble the bag this hard? All you have to do is just be honest and treat your talent well, and you make a shit ton of money. I guess, yeah, sometimes allegedly, when it comes to corporations like Bishoujo, I think they get in over their head and don't realize it, and A lot of the people that work there probably should not have been in charge of the things that they were in charge of. Like, there's a lot mishandled, a lot of people in positions of power that really should not have been in that position. But that is an understatement, I guess. Y'all should have said something. We couldn't, is the thing. Like, we were under threat of legal action. Now that it's all kind of coming to light and everything is kind of exploding, honestly, I don't know if stuff like that is even like a thing anymore. Like, I feel like K-Song went on stream and like talked about how she hasn't been paid, and a lot of people have been airing out like the mistreatment. So I think at this point it's okay to talk about a lot of stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, I wish in like all of my heart that I could have been able to say something. I desperately wanted to tell people. It's just like it generally makes you go crazy. Just seeing so many people glaze them, for lack of a better word, while you're just like sitting there like, oh my god, if only you knew. If only you knew, like the kinds of things that they've been doing to people, and they're getting away with it. For so long, I didn't know if I would ever be able to say anything. I had resigned myself to the fact that I would never be able to say anything, and I had made peace with that for the most part, actually. Like, it's been 2 years, and I left as respectfully and like amicably as I could. I tried my best to be as professional as I could. I just wanted to be done with it, you know. I wanted to wash my hands with it and move forward into like a new chapter in my life. But unfortunately, it was even still stressful, despite the fact that I left. Even like it was just like aftershocks of stress from like all the shit that people were saying, and like just the repercussions of the fact that I left. It sucks because we were all told we couldn't rock the boat or we'd be left all alone. Yes, like they actually like guilt trip people like that. It's insane. Companies will outright tell talent like, you need the company, and if you leave, you're gonna fuck over people, you're gonna fuck over staff, you're gonna fuck over your friends, stuff like that. And of course they don't use like the F word, but it's scary, it's manipulative, it's fucked up. When I left 2 years ago, the entire process of leaving, the resulting fallout of it was extremely stressful, and I know it sounds dramatic, but it legitimately broke me mentally. Like, I was so burnt out. I was like losing my passion for all the shit that I do, and it sounds like silly because like all I do is play video game and fart online and stuff like that. But like I felt so isolated and scared. Like, it was so frustrating not being able to say anything publicly because like I was under threat of legal action if I were to break the NDA, and I also just didn't want to cause trouble for everybody. Like I said, when me and Vate and Silver left, like we were outright, to the other talent even, discredited, like from staff. They were like, the remaining talent were told that we were just troublemakers, and like all the reasons for why we left were generally like downplayed and outright lied about. That kind of thing is purposely done from a position of power in order to, I don't know, discourage all the other people from catching on and being like, hey, like, why did all these people leave? Like, clearly there's something wrong. Like, what's going on? Like, I was painted in a unsavory light. Even the fact that I had used the services of a lawyer to look over my contract and help with separating from the company, like that fact was used against me as like, wow, like, can you guys believe this? She's so heartless. She talked to us through a lawyer. How dare she do something like that? The lawyer that they had us use while in the org was even licensed. Yeah, that's another thing. Like, their license was expired. That was one of the reasons why we were able to get out. Yeah, not licensed, that's not a lawyer. Like, dubiously a lawyer, allegedly a lawyer. I guess to add insult to injury, like I mentioned, like, I'm not the only person. Like, a lot of the talent weren't paid, and probably like still haven't been paid. Definitely still haven't been paid. Like, Isan, Michi, and stuff like that. Like they mentioned, one of the sponsors that they failed to pay me for like over the course of 2 years while I was at the company was a sponsor that I did where I was swatted live on stream. And I've told this story before, but obviously I didn't mention the fact that I wasn't paid for it when I left. Yeah, the Cookie Run Kingdom one, yes. And I couldn't talk about that also because like legal reasons to deal with an ongoing investigation into the doxing and the swatting situation that a lot of people were dealing with. Like a lot of people were affected by the shit. It was fucking awful. It was very surreal, and it's like it's like funny in hindsight to talk about it because you know you gotta use humor to cope with dark stuff like that in any way you can. Like, at least that's my view of that kind of thing. But I have like this idea to make this sponsor really funny and goofy and wacky, and I'll make cookies live on cam, and like my face or anything isn't showing, but like my arms and my hands were. Yeah, I did the bit where it looked like my arm fell off. Okay, it started out all well and good, but then I was swatted in the middle of it due to advice from the investigators who said like the best course of action would be to keep going with the stream, because like if you stop the stream after that happens, then the people who were swatting you, obviously they're gonna know that they were successful. So I had to keep going like for hours after the fact, after I spoke with like law enforcement banging down my door with guns, and like it was fucking terrifying and so surreal. Like I had to keep up with the stream and like act cheery and make jokes in front of thousands of strangers, and like underneath that I can't even put into words to describe like how that felt. It was so fucked up. I remember like when I heard the police bang at my door, I came up with an excuse live like, oh, sorry you guys, I gotta go get some more frosting for the cookies. BRB. And I went to BRB for a very long time, and I came back and desperately was trying to like lock in and just not give off the fact that I was fucking terrified and fearing for my life. It was horrific. It was like I still to this day have nightmares relating to that, but it left lasting marks on me. And one of the only things that helped me to like, kind of cope with it after the fact was thinking like, hey, at least I'm gonna be paid for all that. Like I'm traumatized, but at least I'm gonna get paid. And that was back when I was just starting out as a VTuber under Vishojo too. Like it was all an overwhelming and very scary time to begin with, and like having so many eyes on me and having this like ongoing police investigation, and I was still in my dilapidated like, gross apartment with mold on the walls, like in like a really shady area on the outskirts of Seattle. So I was doing what I could do to grind so I could get out of there. So that was like one of the glimmers of hope. I was like, you know what, I went through all that, but at least I'll get paid. And once you know it, was one of the many things that they failed to pay me for over the course of literal years was that stream, the one that I got swatted during. It just like, it felt like a kick in like the deepest part of my gut. Words cannot even describe how angry I was. And they tried to say like the reason why they weren't able to make the payment is because they didn't have my payment information, which I knew for a fact was false because they had made a payment to me like a few weeks prior to when I was about to leave. I had legal grounds to sue them, but I decided to not pursue that at the time, like 2 years ago. Because I was just incredibly stressed during that entire ordeal. Like leaving, the resulting fallout from it, and entering a legal battle with them during all of that would just like, that would be way too much. Even like at the time, despite all the stress that I had and like all like the stress that they were causing my friends and like people close to me, like I respected them. I respected a lot of the staff, bro. Like I felt so bad for leaving. I felt so guilty. Like I still have like, I made like a note on my iPhone. It sounds so dumb. Of like the pros and cons of leaving. I still have it. Pros and cons of leaving. Cons. I'll miss Panini and Gunrun. Like I'll make Mouse sad. And like if the reaction to me leaving could suck and be stressful. I'll feel really fucking guilty about leaving. Probably no more concerts. Backpack stuff will be trickier. I wrote all that. If there's one thing Gunrun did right, it's the fucking backpack. I have a lot to say about that. That fucking backpack has caused so much strife. Setting up that shit is so fucking obnoxious, and it, oh god, every single shit. Like, there has to be a better way, bro. I'm sorry. Like, it was just a fucking backpack thing that's finally making me cry so down. But the IRL streams were, oh god, they were so fun. But every single time, like, there would be something funny or cool that would happen, you know? And I'd look over at the backpack and see that it was just like everything was down and we had to like go through like several fucking different dashboards to fix all this shit. How do you feel about the karaoke stream now? Here's the thing, like, it was fun. Like, I had so much fun doing that. And even that was used against me after I left. Like, to add insult to injury, like, oh, I can't believe she left, even though she did a karaoke stream with the Vishojo staff. What the fuck, you that is blowing my fucking mind. How has it been 5 years? No, you're not old. And we got 5 more years of epic and awesome times ahead of us. Finally free of all this, most of this bullshit. And we can just look forward to the future now. And hopefully, like, none of this shit will come to pass again in the future. Let's pray. Oh, Jesus Christ, no more. I can't take much more. I'm too old for most of this shit. This kind of thing makes me think YouTubing is too volatile a career path. I disagree. It's still possible for a company, like a YouTuber company, to treat their talent well. Like, if people want to be part of a company, I don't think that's a bad thing. But also, I'm the #1 proponent of just being independent and having someone that just gets you sponsors. Like, Mythic is chill because when I approached them, there was no spiel about like, oh, we're gonna be a big family and blah, 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 blah. They were just like, so yeah, we're just gonna bring you sponsors and merch and shit. We'll take a cut of the sponsors and everything's all good, you know? Like, it's cut and dry, no bullshit. Always look out for yourself and look out for like any red flags and never feel like, oh, I shouldn't like speak out about this or like speak up and try to like help myself because this like the company told me like, oh, like if you speak up about this, like you're gonna cause problems for all the talent. Like, you don't wanna cause problems, do you? Like, we're all depending on you. Like, don't fall for that shit. And I'm not saying it's bad if you do, because I don't blame you if you do. I fell for that kind of shit too. Like, they made me feel guilty as fuck when I left. They also told me like, if you leave, like people are gonna be harassed because of you. Like, the company is gonna suffer because of you. Like, can you wait like several months to like space out the leaving so that it'll look better on us and look worse on you overall. And yeah, like Mouse said in her video, like much of the same stuff. Like, insane to me that they tried that manipulative guilt tripping bullshit with her. The fact that they did that to anybody, it's fucked up, especially her. Like, taking advantage of it. Like, yeah, a chronically ill person, much less like someone who is like the #1 supporter of the company and is like doing her best to help the company as a whole. Like, they needed her. She didn't need to be shoujo. They needed her. Zen was apologizing to us for praising them over the years. She shouldn't apologize for anything. She didn't do anything wrong. But I get it. Like, I wanted to apologize to people too. Like, even like back when I left. I don't know. They have so much burden. Like, I really feel for them. Yeah, they were blindsided. Like, they shouldn't blame themselves, but I get why they are feeling that way. I wish nothing but the best for like all the talent. They've all been fucked over and they've all like had to suffer through so much stress. I just want them to, I don't know, be able to have a weight lifted off of themselves at least. Like it's all out there in the open, but it still hurts, you know? Like Zen and Mouse, they're some of like the founding people of the company, and like spending that much time as part of a group like that and like having to leave in such a painful way and have it be so public is, I can't really put it into words, but I wish them nothing but the best. Like, I just want them to be okay, you know? And Haruka too, like, she's such a sweet person, and it just hurts me so much to see that she had to go through all this stuff too. Like, it's painful that it all had to happen this way, but in a way, like, I'm glad that it's all over now and like they can be free, you know? Like, finally, like, maybe they'll be treated well and get paid and not have to deal with all this like hidden stress in the like behind the scenes. It's fucked up and sad, don't get me wrong. Like, I hate that any of this had to happen. Point is like heartbreaking to me that it had to get to the point where $500,000 was stolen from a fucking charity for this stuff to go public. It still feels so surreal to me that this is all just like out there now. I can't even believe, like, I feel like this is a dream right now, like me talking about this shit. And I'm so sorry if I misspoke or said something that sounds insane. It's really hard to talk about heavy shit like this. It has been genuinely so surreal, just like looking at my Twitter timeline and just seeing all this stuff. Like, it's like heartbreaking and sad on one hand, like just seeing all the people that got fucked over by them, not just like talent and staff, but like all these like artists and people and like people who auditioned. And like, don't even get me started on the auditions shit, because oh god, it's not my place, but you guys know. And of all the things that they've done, like, that is genuinely the worst. Like the stealing from charity thing. Like, I know I've talked a whole big deal about like, oh, woe is me, like all this shit that I've been through, stuff like that. And like, I don't want to start like a whole like, oh, it's me, it's about me. And it wasn't just me, like it was everybody. There's so many people that went through probably like even worse than what I did. And like, to steal from a charity that's so close to Mouse's heart is just unimaginably heartless. Yeah, it's I can't wrap my head around being that evil. True talent freedom is being indie. At this point, I'm not gonna trust any company that is just like, you know, insists upon itself, so to speak. Like, if a company needs to go out of its way just to like, their main selling point is to talk about how much better they are and not like how nice they are, like that's whew. But yeah, I'm sorry for being toxic and being a raging epic gamer today. I know like this is a heavy conversation. I never like talking about this kind of shit on stream because I'm always scared of like misspeaking or being misconstrued, especially dealing with something like this, like personal and something that is weighed on not just me but like a ton of other people. This isn't just me, like, let me reiterate, it's everybody. Like, so many people were affected by this. Like, for every story that I've told, like, there's other people with like worse stories, like countless other stories, like things that they've had to keep to themselves. Like, it's gonna be okay. I know it feels like fucked up and surreal, all this going down, but the main feeling is it's all gonna be okay. From here on out, we're just gonna chill and fart around, and we have nothing but good things to look forward to now. And so we just go see another day of epic gaming, epic chilling. Who knows what waits for us around the bend? We just gotta keep going to see it, or you're gonna miss out. There's a lot of cool stuff that could happen. You gotta stick around for it, bro. Just gotta keep on trucking. Thank you so much for all your support. And yes, as I said, please send everybody all the support that you can. Please send them lots of love. They need it right now, bro. I can't imagine how difficult it is for them to go through all this, and my heart goes out to all of them, for real.
Shy Lily has broken her silence about what happened between her and Vishojo. And by the way, guys, If you're exhausted of the V Shoujo shit, I apologize, but we're talking about everything because everybody needs to know how big of bastards this fucking company is. Let's get into it.
Hello, Lily. Hello,
Hello.
Womp Womp. Now I know this might be rude to you, Lily, but I just want to send my regards and best wishes, and all love. I mean at least 50% of my support to Iron Mouse. She deserves better.
Oh, she deserves better. Oh my god, dude. My heart dropped when I saw this. The drama
was
frog
insane.
got into my chat yesterday, and I was like, what the fuck's going on? Leave me the fuck alone. I have to educate myself.
You found the part? Found the part for what?
Yeah, they put Vey under an NDA that made her unable to talk to any of the girls about it. Yes!
So what you're saying is Tectone was right again? Man, I'm shocked, dude. She's not the only one. All of them are, man. All of them are.
Yes! That part was so fucked up.
Yep.
Like, they did so much to prevent us from talking to each other and to purposely, like, pit us against each other even.
So what they did is they NDA'd Silver, Nanners, and Vebe. And then the company itself told all the girls with Vshoujo that they left for a reason that they didn't leave for, to make them think that Nanners, Silver, and Vebe were all greedy pieces of shit. And then Nanners, Vebe, and Silver couldn't fucking talk about it, which made all of them drift apart.
Anyway. Hey, wonderful. Hey. All right. Sailor Bull. No, company would have got it from material circle. I'm just wearing the outfits from Master bought for me. Even though I love Master's gift. This looks way too eye-catching. Every time I see other one go out and uses and stuff, but you don't know what I say that. Time for this limited edition outfit, you know. Feels like I took an arrow to the knee. Okay. You got a point. Do right that thing. Motions to reserve button do. Oh. She's been just sitting there. Okay. Check club.
So yeah, they stole money from charity, they stole money from all their creators, and then they caused a rift of actual friends for years just because they didn't want to be outed as pieces of shit.
And like, they did not want us to talk to each other. They did not want us to like get together and be like, yo, like what the fuck is going on? Isn't this kind of weird?
Yep.
They like isolated us and like threatened us with legal action, and I can't.
Yeah, guys, is anybody, man, I can't believe Tecton was right again. This is so shocking. Let's keep going.
I was about to end stream. I was like, brother, oh, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. And then I was on Twitter and I was like, what's going on? And then I was on YouTube and I was like, oh, no way. No, we gotta Lily explain. I mean, I did open a can of worms on Twitter.
It's a womp for the mouse.
What happened? A womp for my mouse. Poor mouse. It must be...
How come all these 50-year-old VTubers can go womp womp and everybody says it's cute, but when I do it, everybody types KMS? Womp womp!
So fucking scary to do this. Oh, like the fucking goosebumps I had.
Daily dose of Shoujo YouTube channel dead of a heart attack.
What happened with Mouse? Is she okay? I hope so. I don't think that's easy to digest. No, she must have been literally shaking and quivering when.
Yo, Chad, who's cuter, me or Shy Lily?
You know, opening up about what's going on. Oh fuck. I'm just sad that the feeling I had when they tried to recruit me is something that actually proved right. That it saddens me, dude. It fucking saddens me.
Yeah.
Yeah, my gut feeling was right. Fuck me, dude. Your gut's never lied, has it? Oh, my gut's been betraying me quite a bit. Every how much constipation I've had to go through. No, but jokes aside, though, you can't always trust a gut feeling. I know I got a pretty solid gut feeling, but it's
yeah, alright. It's going to be it for the stream. Good luck, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.